I'll give you a little background about myself. So I'm actually a patent attorney as well. Work here at UCF in the Technology Transfer Office. I've gone anywhere from working at university here. I worked at NASA in their tech transfer office for a couple of years. I was in-house counsel at Procter & Gamble for a couple of years. I've had my own law practice. Background's in chemistry. I decided I wanted to go to grad school. I was going for my PhD, and I said, I don't want to stay on a lab bench anymore. I want to find something else. No idea about law school. I was following a couple of stories about changing the way generics could actually hit the market before brand name drugs came off. And so they were changing the legislation about that at the time. And so that's kind of how I found my way to law school. And I'll go through a little bit more of that as we go through this one. This kind of gives you an idea of what we do here at UCF and our intellectual property portfolio. So first patent that was granted here was in 1989. Right now we're managing over 1,500 technologies coming out of this university. So our mission is to protect all the intellectual property that's coming out of the labs here at the university and try and commercialize those and bring some revenues back in, bring partners back into the university to work with the various faculty members, hopefully even to get some of you guys some jobs. We've got, I don't know what we're at current. I think I heard the number is about 796, somewhere in that number, issued patents that we have for the university now. Give you an idea. So if we commercialize the technologies coming out of the university, we actually distribute revenues that come back in after we pay off our expenses. So is everybody here undergrad, grads? Undergrad? So these don't quite apply to you. so they can. So if you're working on projects in the labs, then these would apply to you because the things that are coming out of the labs will. But if it's something completely that you've done on your own, undergraduates aren't implicated by the policies, the regulations, and the policies of the university, and so we don't automatically own what you guys do. But if it's inside the labs, then we have a stake in what's coming out of the research labs. But to give you an idea, if we commercialize something, this is the share that we provide back to the inventors, the colleges, the departments. So, if you're working in a lab and you and your major professor, you get somewhere 30 to 50% of the proceeds that come back in from the commercialization. So, to give you an idea, right now I've got one that's about to come back in with a $9 million sublicense. So, faculty member is going to get. It's somewhere in between. It's going to be a combination of these because those values, so the first 100,000 of that we'll get 50% of. The second 100,000 of that he'll get 40% of, and then the remainder 30. So it'll be a sliding piece of that. But it's a nice little pocket, little added income there. So you've seen, I don't know how many companies come back in because of your research that you've been doing, correct? So I don't know if you got some sponsored, not particular revenue, but some projects that have come back in based on the work that you've been doing. So maybe not. Okay, not yet. Some ideas of some things that are available, some resources. There is the Blackstone Launchpad. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's over in the student union. They're geared up for trying to create entrepreneurs and get you to start, whether it's companies or get involved in companies. Do it while you're in the university. It's a great place to fail. I mean that. If you go out there and you've got bills to pay, you've got mortgage to pay, whatever else. As you get older in life, you've got a lot more liabilities that you have, less risk that you'll probably be able to take. This is a great place to do it. We've got all kinds of things that are available for you as students. And if you want to know more about any of these, there's competitions that you can apply for. We have the I-Corps program, which is by the National Science Foundation, where it's geared to take a technology and trying to create a company from it. So if you're interested in that, let me know. the big part of this one is I wanted to go into careers in intellectual property. So Bonnie and Chris are both patent attorneys. Both of them work in a law firm environment. Bonnie was as an examiner in the patent office, so her career path was very different than a lot of different people. So you'll find out from patent attorneys a variety of different ways on how they got to different places. But there are a lot of different opportunities. So patent office, one way is just as an examiner. She also mentioned as a judge, administrative law judge at the patent and or trademark side of it. Policy, so a lot of the countries around the world look to the U.S. And look to mimic or take a lot of their policies. That could be done at the U.S. level because there's creation of policy. Patent office is under Department of Commerce, so they're always trying to get some policy, at least within the U.S., as well as there's international organizations. I saw a job posting the other day in Kiev, Ukraine, based out of the embassy through the patent office. So there's opportunities there. See them in Singapore, a variety of places. If you go the attorney route, agent specialist, like what they were talking, there's ways to do that in the law firm, corporate world, government, academia, nonprofits, and there's some other ways. And then I'll go into tech transfer a little bit more detail, and you can do policy. Again, that could be anywhere from working on Capitol Hill, working for a congressman. That could be going any place to the World Intellectual Property Organization, which is based out of Switzerland, which would be actually a diplomat level position. So there's a variety of ways that you can do that. Real quick, since Bonnie was an examiner, so I'm going to highlight this from the fact of not just patents, but also trademarks. So there are two different types, so it's the patent and trademark office. They kind of split as how they review things. So there's the patent world, which only reviews the patents, and there's the trademark side. The patent examiners have technical backgrounds, have been, I'm going to tell you, at least a bachelor's degree in whatever particular. A lot of them have PhDs. The trademark examiners are all licensed attorneys. So when they're reviewing it, you're actually talking with an attorney that's doing it. So they go through pretty decent. They go through a pretty decent regimen for their training. Most of the patent examiners nowadays that we interact with, most of them do not. So the Patent and Trademark Office is just outside of D.C. Most of the patent examiners nowadays telecommute. They have some satellite offices. They've got one in Detroit. They've got one in Colorado, out in Denver. I think they've got one on the West Coast. I've got patent attorneys I work with in Atlanta. The patent examiners actually live in Atlanta and come meet with them in their offices. So, it could be anything. Same with the trademark examiners. So the advantages of working for Patent and Trademark Office, you get some flexible hours. It's working the government hours. That could be good, could be bad. If you want a 40-hour work week, it's probably not a bad thing. They used to make them come into the office once every 2 weeks, but now since they have remote offices, they don't even have to do that anymore. You get the federal government benefits, which used to be a lot better, but they're still not bad. The disadvantages, Bonnie was mentioning the count system that they're on. So the more junior you are, the more time you get to work on a particular application. The more senior you are, the less time you get. So your efficiency is supposed to increase, which could be good, could be bad, which is very similar to, I'll get into it, billable hours at a law firm. You're going to get limited exposures on technologies because they're going to put you into a particular art unit where you're with your particular specialty, and you're going to see things in that particular area for your career. So if you want broad range, that's not the place to go. And then the compensation is going to be less. So the compensation for a patent examiner is going to be better. So they're on the government system, but they've actually made it so that they have a better pay scale than the standard government system. So it is going to be better, but it's not going to be what you're going to find out in the private world. So some famous patent examiners that you've probably heard of. So Jefferson was the first patent examiner in the U.S. Einstein, that's how he actually got a lot of his ideas, and came up with a lot of ideas, was in the Swiss patent office. Some other things that you can actually do at the patent office. Solicitor's office. So the solicitor's office, it gets involved when, so if a patent gets taken up on appeal, whether it's to a federal court, whether it's within the agency, whether it could be the patent office not even involved in it, but some cases that go up to the Supreme Court, they ask for they ask for the solicitor's office of the patent office to weigh in on whether or not something should be patentable, should not be patentable, and it's up to the discretion of whether or not they want to actually file a brief in support one way or the other. So that's one way that you could do it. Typically, if you're going to go there, it's going to require a law degree. And again, if they're being sued, the patent office is being sued, which is the way you get something done through a federal government agency is you actually have to sue the agency. So it's not like you're actually suing them for damages like you would do a person in a court, but the way you actually have to get somebody to the agency to act is you actually have to file a lawsuit against them. So that's why it says sue the agency when the agency's sued. Another one would be the patent and or trademark. So there's two different trial and appeal boards. One for the patent system, one for the trademark system. And so if you get to a point where you can't go any farther with your particular application because you and the examiner aren't seeing quite eye to eye, and you think you've got a basis that you can go forward, and whatever evidence that you've put forward so far you think is sufficient, you can actually appeal that up to the agency level. And so they actually have judges that are part of the agency that actually will decide that. If you're not happy with their decision, you can take it out of that agency and you can take it into federal court. So to be a judge, you're going to have to be an attorney. Most of the time, they're going to want somebody that's been in practice for several years before you do that. But you could you could be a clerk for the judges. They use those all the time. Policy, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of countries around the world that are looking to mimic the U.S. There's a lot of there's been initiatives over the years to harmonize the patent, not just within the U.S., but harmonize it across the world so everybody's playing with a similar system. And so there's always capabilities to do that on an international level, or even put out policy here in domestically. So it's actually going to be a patent examiner coming here beginning of next month. So if you're interested, they're actually looking for, I don't want to call it a job fair because they're not coming here officially to recruit, but they are, if you're interested in learning more, I'll send out some more through your office, I guess. So if you're interested, I think it's going to be the 4th of November, coming here to talk about careers at the patent office. And so those are good places to find ways into their office. Law firm, as Bonnie and Chris were talking about. So there's a couple different avenues, a couple different aspects that patent attorneys do at law firms. Normally, you're going to find as a patent attorney or doing trademark work, you're going to draft and file patent applications. Trademarks are going to be a little bit different on how you interact, and they're probably going to go a lot faster. But the litigation side will kind of take you down. So on the prosecution side, it's drafting applications and then practicing before the patent office and trying to get this in front of something issued in front of the patent examiner or trademark examiners. Here's some different advantages of it. So you can see a variety of different, if you're going to variety of different technologies, your client base could be anywhere from, I don't care, take Apple to DuPont to Google. I mean, so you can have a variety of different things that you work on. At a law firm, you don't necessarily have to have a be an attorney to work in a law firm. You can be a specialist that works on the cases. It gives you some ideas for in that particular technology area. The way law firms typically work is you've got the partner, it's got the highest billing rate, you've got an associate, it's got a lower billing rate, and you keep going down levels. And so depending upon how much that client's willing to pay is depending upon who's working on those particular cases. There's some oversight by all those, but to be able to match numbers, sometimes somebody's bills have to get cut, and so somebody else can add their time onto it. So the things that law firms won't tell you, attorneys won't tell you. You can work from just about any place. I'm going to tell you that's kind of predictable hours, but I'm going to tell you that most of the people I know that work in law firms will tell you that they're working constantly, all hours of the night, because they got to drum up business. They got to be responsive to clients. I'll get more into some disadvantages here. The chances that they can truly take a vacation without having to respond to somebody is very slim to none. So there you go. Billable hour requirements here. Okay, that's something that people throw out there. Most law firms, I'm going to tell you, want about 2,000 hours worth of billable hours per year just to maintain whatever salary level you're at. If you go above that, you can get bonuses. 2,000 hours in a patent. So for litigation, pretty much everything you do is going to be billable hour. Patent world, it's not that easy to get that. To get one billable hour in a patent, even if you're a really efficient attorney, you're probably working 1.25 to 1.5 hours to get 1 hour. So figure if they want 2,000 hours of you, that's a lot of time. It's not as glamorous as you see. What you see in the media is not what everybody does. There are some people that do very well. You're at the mercy of your clients. If you got to go collect money from your clients, you got clients that say, "Hey, I want this done now." If not, they're going to go someplace else. So, and then you've got volume and efficiency. So the higher you get, the more efficiency they want from you. And to get to a partner, most of them you have to buy into the partnership level. And I'm going to tell you the buy-ins on those things are probably low end, probably $250,000, some of them up to several $1 million to buy into the partnerships. So, but to do that, you get a piece of the pie that everybody else in the firm is doing. So, could be good, could be bad. You could do litigation in a law firm. Everybody sees that, on TV. You should read about those in the news. So the caveat: litigation in court requires you to be an attorney. To actually practice in front of the patent office, all you have to do is be a patent agent, which means you pass the patent agent's exam. So to be eligible for that, you have to have at least a 4-year degree in a science or technical field. Most people that do anything in front of the patent office, there are patent agents. Again, that's based on the billing rates and everything else. Most people are attorneys, especially as you start going down towards appeals or as you go to post-grant. But in a law firm, you've got to have to be an attorney for that one. You can do opinion work. So Bonnie touched on this one earlier. You can do freedom to operate. You can do invalidity. The reason I asked her about how much it costs is to give you some idea before she got to litigation. Because litigation costs, I'm going to tell you, what was it? She said $2 million was a low side on it. Opinion work, I'm going to tell you, if you have $75,000, so on some of those. So if you're looking for how much you're going to get back in return, you've got to figure out how much cost is going to be involved in that. So if you're going to spend out $75,000 and you're only going to get $5,000, most people don't think that's a good return on investment. So, if you're going to, the flip side, if you're going to spend $5,000, you'll get the other. So, it's a cost-benefit analysis for it. And I'll get more into licensing here, but you can do, some law firms do get involved in licensing. in particular with a lot of their corporate clients. They draft contracts, and this is where the contract part that Chris was talking about gets in. To do contracts, you actually have to be an attorney. But I'm going to tell you that most attorneys, they spend most of their careers trying to get to something like this because they can actually bill for their time and it's something fun to do. Most of them don't get to do this. Next is in-house counsel. So this is actually where you're working for a particular company. And so you're only working for that particular company. I was in-house at Procter & Gamble with Gillette. And so I was responsible for drafting patent applications for a lot of different razors. I didn't think there could be more razors, but apparently there can be. I got involved with things way upstream in product development. So before a company's going to spend money to develop a product, they're going to spend a lot of money to figure out, is there a value at the end? Is there something protectable at the end? Because they don't want to spend the money and have their competitors come and design around them. We had 4 attorneys at Gillette that we were just drafting patents, and so that was, we were responsible for doing everything worldwide for Gillette. Some companies are much smaller. I'm going to tell you, so we had 4 patent attorneys there, but we also had there was 3 or 4 other attorneys that were looking at like employment issues, that were looking at if you put a claim saying we're the best razor in the world, that if that's incorrect, somebody's going to sue you for false advertisement. So they had people reviewing that liability. So if somebody nicked themselves, are they going to get sued for it? I was there when all the fallout was going from Tiger Woods, and so they were reneging. I shouldn't say reneging. They had morality clauses in their contracts with the athletes, and so they were pulling back on their sponsorships from Tiger Woods. So, we had attorneys that did specifically that. The smaller the company, the less likely, the more likely you're going to be involved in a lot more work. The larger the company, it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be probably a lot more pigeonholed as to what expertise you're going to be at. So, the advantages to it, you can get a variety of spectrum, all the way from way upstream to this is a concept to you can finally see a product launch, which is actually a really cool experience. I'm going to tell you the hours sometimes are better, but not necessarily all the time. I filed a patent application at probably 11 o'clock at night one night because my counterpart in Europe missed something. So, and you get a lot more depth of understanding of the particular portfolio, and you're involved in the business, and so you're seeing the whole business go downstream here with it. Disadvantages, I'm going to tell you, sometimes you get limited exposure because you become siloed, and so you're looking at a lot more just one particular product. I'm going to tell you salaries are going to be typically lower. Opportunity for advancement is, for a partnership level at a law firm, you're looking 7 years of experience. For in-house counsel, there's certain levels that you can get to pretty quickly. After that, somebody basically has to die or retire before you're getting to those next levels. And so you start seeing people either stay at a company for years or they jump between companies. That's just the way it works. And then stability for a company is going to depend upon. So if you're with a startup company, you're going to have a lot more risk than if you're with a Fortune 500 company. Tech transfer. So I'll give you a little bit of here what technology transfer is, and I'll kind of give you an idea of how I got into it. So the short of it is it's moving information, knowledge, inventions out into making economic impact out in society. Or the short of it, transitioning it from lab to marketplace. So I honestly had not heard of technology transfer before I ever got into the field. I was in law school. I was finishing up my first year of law school. I was looking for a job for the summer. And I sent, I don't know, hundreds of resumes around, law firms, whatever it was, just looking for some kind of internship for the summer. And I got a call back from somebody at the NIH. And they said, well, we don't have patent attorneys here. We have technology transfer. I said, what in the world is technology transfer? So I actually took a unpaid internship my first summer of law school and found my way into the field. So other than that, I wouldn't have known. I'll give you an idea here in a minute as kind of where what's done in the particular field. So, but here's some key characteristics kind of what a role in technology transfer. So all of you coming out of the science world, okay, I'm going to tell you if you want to go down the path of going for a PhD, going for a postdoc, and then going into an academic world, I'm going to tell you it's super competitive. How hard is it to get a grant nowadays? How hard is it to get an academic faculty position nowadays? Okay. How important is a pedigree to get that? Okay. These are the things people don't tell you. Okay. So you were asking about where you can go to graduate school. And, so Maryland's a very good school. If you're looking at going to graduate school, you're looking at going that way, I'm going to tell you to go to the best graduate school you can. Go for the pedigrees. That's where people are hiring from. It might not be quite as important where you do your graduate school as where you do your postdoc if you want to stay on that. If you want to go academia. If you want to go industry, postdoc's probably not as important because you can do a postdoc in the industry. And they're probably industry is going to look a little bit more towards what your research is on versus what lab you're particularly in, unless they've got some affiliation with the particular labs. So in the tech transfer world, I'm going to tell you that works in the nonprofits, that's going to work in academia, medical centers. Most people are scientists. Most people have PhDs. Attorneys would probably be the next on that list. MBAs are pretty common. I saw a posting recently, somebody asking, I think they were finishing up their postdoc, asking they wanted to get into the tech transfer world, what would be the best skill set to have? Marketing skill set was one that came back routinely, is being able to interact with people on the outside. So as a converted scientist, attorney, most scientists don't like to interact with a lot of people in the business world. They like to get involved in the very technical side. If you want to broaden that scope out, this would be a great field. If you want to look straight down the same path all the time, this might not be a great way to do it, but you might want to look at, some technical specialist if you want to get into the legal field. A lot of personal interactions. I just went to a conference that Bonnie and Chris just mentioned. I think I went to about 5 minutes of that meeting and was in the hallways most of the time interacting with companies, with investors, whatever it was, so doing more business development side of it. I don't know how many of you want to be entrepreneurs or, I think the chances of finding a job, I shouldn't be so pessimistic, but the chances of finding a job versus creating your own job, creating your own companies, creating your own experiences, that's kind of where a big trend has been. So if you're interested in that, this would be a good role. If you like to negotiate, like to make deals, there you go. Any job, you're going to have to be able to influence people, whatever you're going to want to do in life. So, typical day for me. I wish I could tell you what one was. So we have what we call a cradle-to-grave model. Basically, we intake invention disclosures from faculty members at the university. We review those for patentability. We're looking at commercial market. We're looking at, if there are investors that would be interested, is it something that would be up for starting up a company? So we're looking at a variety of different things that we go through. And then we decide if we want to protect, is it in the best interest of the university to protect, utilize the university's resources to protect that intellectual property? Who do we find to market and license it to? Because most of the things that come out of our university are very early stage, and they're not going to be out in the commercial market for lucky 10 years. So there's going to be a lot of gap in between getting it from that lab to the marketplace. We've got people that do business development, so they're interacting with potential investors. We've got people that we're working with various companies, so if companies interested in it or partnering so that they'll sponsor some of the research here at the university to fund some of the research coming out of the labs. I don't remember what I had for strategic planning anymore, but at the end of the day, we're under budget pressures, and we have to have something that we're looking at moving forward. So the university right now is under the provost has asked, I think they want 200 million in research funding that they want within the next year, I believe is what it is, or Dr. Swallow is wants that. So kind of gives you an idea. They want the research funding to grow here and create this, or put this at a tier 1 university research institution. So there are advantages to working at a university. Again, similar to in-house, you can get a wide spectrum. I do all these on a routine basis. I probably just don't do them personally. I oversee patent attorneys that do a lot of these things, at least the prosecution, potential litigation. I do the licensing for all the life sciences portfolios that are coming out of the university. I've got 3 other colleagues that handle the rest of the inventions coming here. Do the marketing, the business development. I wish I could tell you that we did this all the way from conception to market. On universities, I'm going to tell you every faculty member is trying to chase a grant. They're trying to find their next money source. So it's not quite like what in-house does, because they're going to put all their money going into one direction. Faculty members here, I probably will tell you, are the best collection of independent consultants that you're ever going to find in one confined space. They're all looking for where they can go to find particular grant funds. The hours at the university are better. The opportunity for advancements, again, very similar. You can get to a certain point, but then it becomes a shrinking field. But if you want to do continuing education, university is a great place to work. And I will tell you, the vacation time here is very good. So, and I can actually use it. I can actually go on vacation. I can, other people will cover for me, and I'm not having to respond to things. So, I mean, there's a lot to be said for it. Disadvantages, sometimes limited exposure, probably a lot more geographically limited. So you got to be around where the university is. I do get to travel for conferences. Earning potential is considerably lower than what corporate world would be. Budgets are a big time issue with the university, whether it's the university funds, whether it's the state of Florida, the funds coming in. Our office operates completely off of overhead funds from grants. So the less grants that come in, the less budgets that we're going to get. And then there's policy pressures that we have, and that's from a variety of different ways. Cut spending, increase your numbers, increase your revenues, but cut your spending. So, that's going to be across the board. Real quick on some policy work, I kind of touched on that. Could be an attorney. Don't necessarily have to be. It really depends upon what you want to do. If you want to be a staffer, that might influence some of the patent laws that are going through. It's changed. They were trying to put something through. I don't know if anybody's kept up with it, on anti-troll statutes. So people that weren't practicing patents but were just suing people or threatening to sue people and collecting monies off of it. They were trying to change that one, put some law through Congress. That one's changed now. So there's a variety of different ways that you could work in the policy world, in the policy sector. So that's all I've got. I'm over in Research Park, and if you've got any questions, please feel free.